I've been married to Sarah for 6 years. We met in college, two bright-eyed students eager to conquer the world. Our relationship blossomed from a friendship, and before we knew it, we were inseparable. I remember the laughter we shared, the long nights spent discussing our dreams, and the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her passions. We built a life together, moved into a cozy apartment, and eventually we decided to tie the knot. In those early years, we were a team. We supported each other through the ups and downs of life, navigating career changes, family gatherings, and the mundane day-to-day routines. But as time passed, the initial spark of excitement began to dull. Life became monotonous, and I noticed a subtle shift in Sarah. She was often preoccupied, her mind seemingly elsewhere. I chalked it up to work stress or the demands of adulthood, but deep down, I sensed something was amiss. I tried to communicate with her, to bridge the growing distance that lingered between us. I brought home flowers, planned spontaneous date nights, and made an effort to engage in her interests. Yet, despite my attempts, Sarah's demeanor remained elusive. She would laugh at my jokes, but it felt forced. Our conversations became surface level, a mere exchange of daily happenings rather than the deep discussions we once cherished. There were moments when I questioned whether I was enough for her. Was I failing her somehow? The thought gnawed at me, but I pushed it aside, convincing myself that every relationship has its ebbs and flows. I wanted to believe that we were just going through a rough patch, not realizing how deep the fissure had grown beneath the surface. One evening, things took a turn that would change everything. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I noticed Sarah's phone buzzing incessantly on the kitchen counter. Normally, she would ignore it, but tonight she seemed distracted, her eyes darting toward the screen. My curiosity piqued. I didn't want to invade her privacy, but a nagging feeling in the back of my mind urged me to take a look. It was a fleeting thought, just a quick glance, I told myself. I picked up her phone, my heart racing as I unlocked it. I had never checked her phone before. I trusted her, or at least I thought I did. But something pushed me to do it. Maybe it was my insecurity, or the feeling that something was off in our relationship. As I navigated to her messages, I felt an unsettling mix of dread and anticipation. I was about to breach a boundary I had always respected. But in that moment, I was filled with a sense of urgency. What I found would shatter my world and lead me down a path I never imagined I would have to walk. As I scrolled through the messages, I felt the weight of the phone in my hand. Each text was a dagger cutting deeper into my heart. I couldn't process what I was reading. The explicit exchanges, the flirtation, the intimacy, it was all there, laid bare in front of me. It felt surreal, as if I was reading a script of someone else's life, but in reality, it was the story of my marriage unraveling at the seams. The moment my thumb brushed against the screen, I felt an electric jolt of anxiety. I shouldn't have been doing this. I had always respected Sarah's privacy, but the curiosity gnawed at me like a persistent itch that wouldn't go away. I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest, but I pressed on, scrolling through her messages with a sense of foreboding. At first, the texts seemed innocuous enough, simple exchanges about her day, reminders about dinner plans, and the usual banter that couples share. But then I stumbled upon a thread that made my stomach drop. The tone shifted abruptly, and suddenly I was thrust into a world I never wanted to see. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one message read. My breath hitched in my throat. I continued to scroll, my heart racing faster with each new line. The messages were explicit, filled with flirtation, longing, and promises I had never heard before. "You make me feel alive," another text said, followed by a barrage of heart emojis and suggestive images that made my skin crawl. I felt as if the ground had been pulled out from under me, leaving me suspended in disbelief. My mind raced as I tried to process the reality of what I was seeing. How could she? How could she betray the trust we had built over the years? My heart sank as I realized that the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been lying to me. Panic set in as I continued to read. It was like a train wreck I couldn't look away from. The messages were not just casual flings. They were deep, intimate exchanges filled with a level of connection that I believed was reserved for us. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, and I had to grip the counter to steady myself. The images flashed in my mind. Sarah's smile, her laughter, the way she would lean into me when we watched movies together. All of it felt like a lie now. I couldn't breathe. My thoughts spiraled as I tried to make sense of the situation. Was this a one-time thing? Or had I been living a facade, blissfully unaware of the reality that my wife was sharing her life, her body, her heart with someone else? I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak coursing through my veins, a toxic cocktail that left me feeling dizzy. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone against the wall to wake up from this nightmare. But I was frozen, paralyzed by the weight of the discovery. I thought about our wedding vows, the promises we had made to each other. Were they all meaningless to her? Had our love turned into just another mundane part of her life, easily discarded for the thrill of something new? As I continued to read, my anger grew. I felt betrayed not just by her actions, but by the way she had hidden this part of her life from me. Each message felt like a betrayal of our intimate moments, our shared dreams. I thought about the times we had been together recently, the nights she had come home late, the excuses she had made. They all played back in my mind like a cruel montage, each scene more painful than the last. I had so many questions, but no answers. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into an abyss that threatened to swallow me whole. My hands trembled as I put her phone down, realizing that I had crossed an invisible line that could never be uncrossed. What was I supposed to do now? Confront her? I knew I had to, but I dreaded the thought of the conversation that awaited us. I felt like a fool, an unwitting participant in a drama I had never wanted to be a part of. The trust I had in her shattered like glass, leaving jagged pieces of confusion and despair scattered throughout my mind. I needed to gather my thoughts to prepare for what was coming. But the reality was, nothing could prepare me for the confrontation that lay ahead. I felt like a stranger in my own home, and the weight of betrayal hung heavily in the air, suffocating me. The minutes dragged on as I sat there, my mind racing with a whirlwind of emotions. I felt like I had been tossed into a storm, unable to find my footing. Anger coursed through me, but it was quickly followed by a deep, gnawing pain that settled in my chest. My heart felt heavy, burdened by the weight of betrayal. How could Sarah do this to me, to us? I replayed the messages in my mind, each one more damning than the last. The words echoed in my ears. "Can't wait to see you tonight. You make me feel alive." What did that even mean? Did she not feel alive with me? My thoughts spiraled into a dark abyss, filled with insecurities and self-doubt. Was I not enough for her? Had I failed her as a husband? I had always considered myself a good partner, supportive, loving, and attentive. But now I felt like I had been living in a dream, only to wake up to a horrifying reality. I thought about the moments we had shared, the laughter and joy that had once defined our relationship. How could she throw it all away for someone else? I felt like a fool for having trusted her so completely. I thought I knew her, but now I was questioning everything. My mind raced with memories, our wedding day, the vacations we took, the quiet evenings spent on the couch. Each moment felt tainted, as if a shadow had been cast over all the happiness we had once shared. I started to wonder about the other man. Who was he? What did he have that I did? My thoughts turned dark as I imagined him, a stranger who had wormed his way into my wife's life. Did he know she was married? Did he care? The jealousy bubbled up inside me, mixing with the anger, creating a toxic brew that threatened to consume me. I hated him for what he had done, for the way he had infiltrated our lives. But more than that, I hated Sarah for allowing it to happen. I felt lost, adrift in a sea of confusion and betrayal. My heart ached, and I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes, threatening to spill over. I blinked them back, refusing to let my emotions take control. I had to be strong. I had to confront her, to demand answers. But how could I even begin to articulate the pain I was feeling? How could I make her understand the depth of my heartbreak? The thought of the confrontation sent a fresh wave of anxiety coursing through me. What would I say? Would I yell? Would I cry? Part of me wanted to unleash my fury, to make her feel the pain she had caused me, but another part of me just wanted to understand. I needed to know why she had done this, why she had chosen to betray our vows. I imagined her reaction when I revealed that I had seen the messages. Would she deny it? Would she try to justify her actions? I couldn't bear the thought of her lying to me again. The trust we had built over the years had crumbled, and I felt like a stranger in my own home. I needed clarity, but I also feared what that clarity would bring. As the minutes ticked by, I felt a strange mix of resolve and dread. I knew I had to confront her, but I was terrified of what that conversation would entail. Would we be able to salvage our marriage, or had we reached a point of no return? I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, with one path leading to confrontation and the other to silence. The silence in our apartment felt deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my mind. I glanced at the clock, realizing that Sarah would be home soon. The anticipation of her arrival sent a jolt of anxiety through me. I needed to be ready, but I didn't know how to prepare for the impending storm. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I needed to gather my thoughts, to find the right words to express the pain and betrayal I felt. But as I sat there, I realized that no words could truly capture the depth of my heartbreak. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship had been shattered, leaving me to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. I was filled with a sense of urgency. I couldn't let her walk through that door without addressing what I had discovered. The confrontation loomed over me like a dark cloud, and I knew I had to face it head on. I had to find out the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The sound of the key turning in the lock sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. My heart raced as I heard the door creak open, and I braced myself for the moment that would change everything. Sarah stepped inside, her smile fading as she caught sight of me sitting on the couch, the tension in the air palpable. "Hey, you're home early," she said, her voice light, but I could hear the uncertainty lurking beneath her words. She had no idea what was coming. "Yeah," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken tension. I watched her expression shift from surprise to concern, her brow furrowing as she took a step closer. "What's wrong?" she asked, her eyes searching mine for answers. I could see the flicker of worry in her gaze, but it was overshadowed by the anger and hurt bubbling inside me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I checked your phone," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "I saw the messages." Her expression shifted instantly, a mix of shock and denial crossing her face. "What messages?" she stammered, but I could see the truth dawning on her. The color drained from her face as she realized the gravity of the situation. "The ones where you're talking to him," I spat, unable to keep the bitterness from seeping into my tone. "The ones where you're saying things that should only be between us." I felt my voice rising, the anger I had tried to suppress spilling over like a boiling pot. "Please let me explain," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I could hear the panic in her tone, but I wasn't ready to hear her. "Excuses. Explain what, Sarah?" I interrupted, my emotions spilling out like a dam that had finally broken. "How you could betray me like this? How you could throw away everything we've built together? Was I not enough for you?" Her eyes filled with tears, and for a brief moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. But it was quickly overshadowed by the rage and betrayal that consumed me. I felt like I was standing on a precipice, teetering between the desire to understand and the urge to lash out. "I never meant for it to happen," she said, her voice breaking. "It was a mistake. I was lonely and I didn't know how to talk to you about it." Lonely, the word echoed in my mind, twisting the knife of betrayal deeper. "Lonely?" I echoed incredulously. "You didn't think to come to me, to talk about how you were feeling. Instead, you chose to share intimate moments with someone else. How is that supposed to make sense?" I was confused. She cried, her voice rising in desperation. "I didn't know how to handle everything. Things have been different between us, and I did know how to fix it." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had sensed the distance, the growing chasm between us, but I had believed we could work through it together. The thought that she had sought comfort in another man, a stranger, felt like a betrayal of everything we had promised each other. "I tried to reach out to you," she continued, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "But you seemed distant too. I thought maybe it was just a phase, but then it spiraled out of control." I shook my head, feeling the weight of my disappointment crushing me. "You could have talked to me. You could have told me how you felt, but instead you chose to deceive me. You chose to cheat." "I know," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you." Love. The word felt hollow now, stripped of its meaning. I wanted to believe her, to hold on to the memories of our love, but the reality was stark and painful. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this," I said, my voice low and trembling. "You wouldn't have let it go this far." The silence that followed felt like a chasm between us, filled with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. I could see the regret etched on her face, but it did little to soothe the ache in my heart. I had trusted her, and she had shattered that trust into a million pieces. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of finality. I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me, leaving me feeling hollow. "I'll do anything to make it right," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "Please don't give up on us." But in that moment, I felt the walls closing in around me. I was overwhelmed by the enormity of what had just happened. The love I had for her was still there, buried beneath layers of hurt and betrayal. But I didn't know if it was enough to rebuild what had been lost. "I need time," I said finally, my voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "I need to figure out what this means for us." As I looked into her tear-filled eyes, I felt a mix of sorrow and anger. I didn't know where to go from here, but I knew one thing. Our lives had changed irrevocably. The road ahead was uncertain, and I could only hope that we could find a way to navigate it together, or if we even wanted to. The confrontation had left me reeling, my emotions a tangled mess of pain and confusion. I spent the night tossing and turning, unable to escape the reality that had shattered my world. Sarah had cried, pleaded, and promised to change, but those words felt hollow against the backdrop of her betrayal. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything we had built was now teetering on the edge of a precipice, threatening to fall into the abyss. As dawn broke, I found myself staring out the window, watching the sun rise over the horizon. The world outside continued as if nothing had happened, but inside, I felt like I was in a state of mourning. Mourning for the relationship I thought I had, for the love I believed was unshakable. I couldn't help but reflect on our journey together, the laughter, the dreams, the shared moments that now felt tainted by deceit. I thought about our wedding day, the vows we had exchanged with such conviction. For better or for worse. Those words echoed in my mind, a cruel reminder of the promises we had made to each other. I had always believed in the sanctity of those vows, but now they felt like a cruel joke. Had Sarah ever truly meant them? Or had she simply recited words without understanding their weight? The implications of her betrayal weighed heavily on me. What did this mean for our marriage? Could we ever return to the way things were? I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions, love and anger, trust and betrayal. I wanted to believe that we could work through this, that love could conquer all, but doubt crept in like a thief in the night, stealing away my hope. I began to question everything. How long had this been going on? Was it a fleeting mistake, or had Sarah been hiding a part of her life from me for some time? I thought back to the times she had come home late or seemed preoccupied. Was it all an elaborate facade? The thought gnawed at me, making my stomach churn. I also felt a deep sense of betrayal, not just from her but from myself. How could I have been so blind? I had trusted her completely, and that trust had been shattered in an instant. I felt like a fool for having believed in the fairy tale we had created together. The man I had been, confident, secure, and loving, now felt like a distant memory. I was left questioning my worth, my value as a husband, and whether I had ever truly known the woman I had married. As the day wore on, I forced myself to confront the reality of the situation. I needed to decide what I wanted moving forward. Could I forgive her? Did I want to try to rebuild our marriage, or was it time to walk away? The thought of starting over was daunting, but the idea of remaining in a relationship where trust had been irrevocably broken felt equally unbearable. I decided to reach out to a close friend, someone who had always been a sounding board for my thoughts. Over coffee, I shared everything, my discovery, the confrontation, and my feelings of betrayal. My friend listened intently, offering support and perspective. "You deserve someone who values you, who cherishes the bond you share," they said gently. "It's okay to take time for yourself to figure out what you want." Their words resonated with me. I realized that I had been so focused on Sarah's actions that I had neglected my own needs. I needed to prioritize my emotional well-being, to take the time to heal and reflect on what I truly wanted. As I left the cafe, I felt a flicker of determination ignite within me. I wasn't ready to make any decisions just yet, but I knew I had to start the process of healing. Whether that meant working on our marriage or choosing to walk away, I needed to give myself the grace to explore my feelings without rushing to conclusions. When I returned home, I found Sarah sitting on the couch, her eyes red from crying. She looked up at me, her expression a mix of hope and fear. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the conversation that lay ahead. "We can," I replied, my voice steady. "But I need you to understand that this isn't going to be easy. I'm hurt, and I need time to process everything." She nodded, her gaze filled with understanding. "I know I've hurt you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. I love you, and I want to fight for us." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of hope. The journey ahead would be difficult, and I couldn't predict where it would lead us. But I knew that I needed to be honest with myself and with her. If we were going to navigate this pain together, it would require transparency, effort, and a willingness to confront the demons that had driven us apart. In that moment, I realized that the road to healing would be long and fraught with challenges, but it was a journey I was willing to embark on, if only for the chance to rediscover the love that had once brought us together. The days that followed were a blur of emotions. Sarah and I began to navigate the rocky terrain of our relationship, confronting the painful aftermath of her betrayal. We committed to open communication, discussing not only the incidents that had led us here but also the feelings that had been buried beneath the surface for so long. It was difficult, to say the least. Each conversation felt like peeling away layers of hurt, exposing raw wounds that had yet to heal. We started attending couples therapy, a step I had once thought unnecessary. I had believed that our love could overcome any obstacle on its own. But now I understood that love alone wasn't enough. We needed tools to help us rebuild the trust that had been shattered. The therapist guided us through our emotions, helping us articulate our feelings and fears. I learned to express my hurt without lashing out, while Sarah began to confront the reasons behind her actions. As we sat in those sessions, I felt a strange mix of hope and skepticism. Could we truly overcome this? Each time I looked at her, I was reminded of the pain she had caused. Yet there were also moments when I saw glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, the woman who had once filled my life with laughter and joy. I found myself reflecting on our journey together, on the love we had shared before this betrayal. The memories flooded back, our first date, the way she had danced in the kitchen, her laughter echoing through our home. I realized that while the betrayal had changed everything, it didn't erase the good times we had experienced together. Those moments were still a part of our story, a testament to the love we had built over the years. As we continued to work through our issues, I began to understand the importance of forgiveness, not just for her sake, but for mine as well. Holding on to anger and resentment would only poison my heart further. It was a difficult process, and there were days when I felt overwhelmed by the weight of it all. But I also knew that healing was a journey, not a destination. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I took a deep breath. "I want to try," I said, my voice steady. "I want to fight for us, but it's going to take time. We need to be patient with each other." Tears filled her eyes as she nodded, gratitude washing over her features. "I'm committed to making this work," she replied. "I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm serious about our future." We began to establish new routines, intentionally spending quality time together. We went on walks, cooked meals, and even revisited some of our old date spots. Each moment was a step towards rebuilding what had been lost. We laughed together again, and I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. There were still challenges to face, but we were facing them together. As weeks turned into months, I noticed a gradual shift in our dynamic. The pain of her betrayal was still there, lurking beneath the surface, but it no longer consumed me. I began to see Sarah not just as the woman who had hurt me, but as a partner willing to confront her mistakes and work towards redemption. We forged a new understanding of our relationship, one built on honesty and vulnerability. I learned to communicate my needs more openly, and she became more attuned to my feelings. It was a process of trial and error, but with each small victory, I felt the weight of our past slowly lifting. Eventually, we reached a point where we could talk about her infidelity without the conversation devolving into anger or tears. It became a part of our story, a chapter that had tested our love but also forced us to grow. I realized that while the betrayal had been a devastating blow, it had also opened the door for deeper intimacy and understanding. As I looked to the future, I felt a mix of apprehension and hope. We had a long way to go, but I was willing to walk that path with Sarah. I understood that trust would take time to rebuild, but I believed we could do it together. In the end, the experience had changed me. I had learned about the fragility of trust and the importance of communication in a relationship. I had faced my own insecurities and emerged stronger on the other side. As I lay in bed one night, I turned to Sarah, who was peacefully sleeping beside me. I felt a surge of love for her, mingled with the remnants of pain from our past. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers, and whispered a silent promise to myself. No matter what lay ahead, I would continue to fight for our love, for the chance to create a future together, one built on a foundation of trust, understanding, and resilience. We were still a work in progress, but I had faith that we could overcome anything as long as we faced it together. And with that thought, I drifted off to sleep, ready to embrace whatever the future held for us. This was just the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, and I was ready to write it together.